Hi everyone, it's Jennifer from Joy of Stationery, and it's been a little bit of a while since my last video. We finally got some high-speed internet installed into the building, and that was the most kind of technical and practical barrier to being able to record and to share more videos. Today I just have a hopefully short and sweet video for you, and it is my One Book July setup. So I first tried out One Book July, I think in 2023, and it may have been actually one of the first videos that I shared on this channel. And this was something that I was really kind of interested in trying out again this year. Recently, I also saw Allison from Little Coco Studio, her video on her One Book July adventure for this year, and that got me really excited. And more recently, I have just seen Carrie Harling's video as well for One Book July this year. I believe that Carrie Harling was actually one of the founders of One Book July, if I'm not mistaken. I think she and a group of others had come up with the concept quite a number of years ago, and the original concept was something like one book, one pen for 1 month, and that turned into One Book July. So I just wanted to give a quick nod, and I'd followed along a little bit, I think, for a couple of years before trying it out myself, and I had a lot of fun doing One Book July back in 2023. This year I pretty much knew that I wanted to try it again, this time in a different book, especially because my system has evolved somewhat. I have yet to do a kind of Techo Kaigi video for 2025. I'm hoping to do one in order to share a little bit more about what my planning system has looked like this year. But for now, for this One Book July, I just wanted to share what's in front of us. And this is the Red Traveler's Notebook from the Love and Trip edition that Traveler's Company just came out with this year. I am in love with this deep red, this lovely burgundy color. This is kind of a new setup actually that I wanted to try for One Book July, precisely because I've always wondered what it would be like to have a somewhat of a full setup in a traveler's notebook that I could carry around with me. It's only been a few days so far, but I'm already loving this, and I just wanted to show a little bit about what is inside here. Perhaps I should preface it first by just noting that I had long been more of a Hobonichi user when it comes to planning, and that's still very much the core of my system. And my other option I was considering for this One Book July is actually the A5 Hobonichi HON, so in the cousin size that I had gotten a couple of months ago and had been using as my central planner and my central kind of planning system, and I've been calling it my anchor book. That would have been, in some ways, the obvious choice to continue with that as my One Book July setup, and just trying to see how much I'm able to kind of fit in for the month into just that one book. I made it as far as the 1st of July, believing that that was going to be my setup for the month, and I actually had a medical related appointment that day, and part of the takeaway from that appointment was about the way that stress has been affecting my body really in my life, especially with chronic illness, and the way that much of the kind of overwhelm from work was contributing to that stress. The current way that I'm using the Hobonichi A5 HON, and maybe I'll show it actually very quickly here. I won't do a full look at the setup just yet, maybe for a future video. So here it is, and I just wanted to show it very briefly. As you can see here, this is just a standard classic / navy design that Hobonichi always comes out with, or has come out with every year ever since they made these HON editions available. And this was because I wasn't sure how effective it would ultimately be, but I really wanted to try it out to address the overwhelm that I was feeling in terms of work planning for an academic. I will say that I am really loving this, and this has helped immensely with bringing a little bit of order and grounding to the overwhelm that I had been feeling. And so this is called my anchor book, and I still really love it. It will still be very central to my system and my lineup for the rest of the year. But this is primarily a work and professional life focused planner. And so by making this my One Book July book, it would inevitably center work rather than perhaps a more holistic focus on my life. And that's actually why, thanks to that health slash medical appointment, that later that day, I ended up deciding, you know what? These were two of the options I was considering, but what if it could be, even in the smallest, microscopic way, a little bit of a radical act to choose this, which could encompass a little bit more of other dimensions and aspects of my whole life, rather than continuing to put the priority and the focus purely on work. So that's just a little bit of the reasoning and rationale for why I've decided on the Traveler's Notebook setup. As I may have mentioned earlier, I've never had a full setup in a Traveler's Notebook, and I have long been wanting to try that out, especially because of how much I do love the Traveler's Notebook system and its tactility, and there's a kind of coziness to this and being able to kind of carry it around with me everywhere. So here we are. This is the red TN, as I mentioned, and initially I did have this as part of my lineup for this year, or part of my system, and this was actually housing my creative insert, and I'll show that in a moment as well. Part of that intentional choice to choose this Traveler's Notebook setup for my One Book July was to see if, with the inclusion of other inserts, all of that would be combined here with the creative insert, was for me a way to remind myself of that creative aspect of my life that really nourishes me and provides me that much needed outlet. And already I will say that with this setup, I actually hadn't touched that creative insert for months now, and the first day of using this, I opened up that creative insert and did a little bit of drawing in it. So I will show that in a moment, as well as I talk a little bit about my setup. But that is, I guess, an example of how I'm seeing this really as something to perhaps not just kind of capture a more holistic vision of my life for the month of July, but to practice it as well. So without further ado, like I said, this is the beautiful red cover that I absolutely adore. I've got here this very cute little snail charm, and I'll actually speak a little bit more to this as I go through the setup as well. So in here, I actually have three main kind of notebook inserts, along with some accessory inserts. So first, you can see here I've got the cotton zipper wallet insert from the Travelers Company. This is in the olive shade. I am thinking of maybe decorating this a little bit with some patches, but I haven't done that just yet. I'm still deciding on what would be the right fit for it. And this I've actually been using as a wallet setup, especially for the month of July, as I use this for my one book. And so, we've got the card slots here, and I might just need to kind of cover this. So that's what I've been kind of inserting here. And of course, there is this pocket here as well, and I can store receipts or other kinds of things there. And this here, I may have shown in a previous video, but this is the Take a Note bi-weekly insert. I think it's new to the Take a Note lineup this year. And this is a bi-weekly, as I mentioned. And essentially what you have on the weekly spreads is actually 2 weeks at a glance. So you've got 1 week on the left-hand page and the next week on the right-hand page. And something that I really appreciate about this is being able to have a little bit more of a macro view of the schedule. Sometimes that can be really helpful for me, just so that I'm not tunnel visioning too much on one week, and I'm still kind of being aware of the context for that week, whether it's the week prior or the week that follows. And that can just kind of help with perspective for myself. I started using this at the beginning of the year, and so I'll show a little bit about how I had been using it, and I will kind of continue to use it for the sort of basic aspects of planning. So, you know, here's January, for example, and it's just a very clean monthly layout, as you can see here, with a good amount of ample space for some notes on the bottom and a little bit on the left column here. So you can see that that was something I was kind of really making note of, or making use of rather, and just jotting down, you know, various commitments, and that's something that I had, you know, continued to do in this way, just in a very functional way. And that's really what the value was of this for me in terms of what I needed. And then once we got to the weeklies, you can see that I really started it right away at the very beginning of the year, really coming into January with a little bit of intensity too. But you can see perhaps just with how much I've loaded on to even just this set of 2 weeks, why it might have been that I eventually wanted to try the larger space of the A5 Cousin HON for my academic planning, just to be able to fit the various components of academic life and planning in that way. So since then, it hasn't quite, you know, been as intense, but you can see that that's you know, what I'd been doing. Similar to the Hobonichi weeks, these horizontal weeklies can be sectioned off with kind of these invisible lines. And so I've been using that to kind of organize information in this way. So this is how I am essentially going to continue to sort of plan in here for the month of July, especially because I do still need that planning component here. And the cotton zipper insert, wallet insert here, is really just kind of covering, oops, that one notebook insert for now. So after this, I have here, this is actually one of my favorite inserts from the Traveler's Company. This is the Free Daily Diary, I think it's called. And essentially it is the one that's basically kind of an undated daily calendar, though you don't necessarily have to use this, you know, depending on the numbers that might correspond with the date of the month. You can use this in whatever way and continue to kind of use these aspects of the layout. And just to kind of show you here, there is in some ways kind of like a monthly index page at the very beginning of the book and right in the middle of the book, and enough of these daily pages for a month that follow each of these monthlies. So technically speaking, each of these inserts can hold 2 months worth of pages if you were using it in that way. So for me, for the month of July, I am trying to use it in this way, and I am approaching the daily pages in a similar way to how I've been using the daily pages in the Hobonichi HON, even though I've not shared that just yet, but this might give you a little bit of an idea. In the Hobonichi HON so far, it is much more work focused in the daily pages, but here, and for the purposes of One Book July, I'm sort of incorporating work-related notes onto these daily pages, as well as certain personal notes as well. So it's like some very, very maybe light memory keeping or things that I wanted to kind of note down that either happened that day or that I'd done that day, along with some work-specific kinds of notes and announcements, things like that, that I want to remember for that day. So I'm just kind of using it in a pretty kind of clean and mostly functional format, with just using pen to make kind of indications for headers that I kind of want to flag for myself. And I'd forgotten how much I really do love these layouts here. It is gridded on these pages, and for some reason I do feel kind of a sense of freedom even with this structure, and that it kind of allows me to play with where I want to put information on the page, and I think it helps me to see the information much more quickly and easily as well. So I do really love how this is starting out. And as you can see here, I've got the beautiful 11 trip pencil board that I just really loved, and the red matches as well. And so this is what I keep in here. So that is the daily diary kind of component of this One Book July setup, and I'm really loving this so far. And then finally, this is the last insert that I have in here, and it's being housed in the craft folder. And this is the creative insert that I was talking about a little bit earlier. And you can see that I have a couple of 11 trip stickers from this year's theme, just because I really loved it. So what I have in here, I have a number of sort of stickers and ephemera in the craft folder itself, and this here is a Serica Studio insert, and I really love the Serica Studio inserts. This is the fern design. It has kind of this lovely olive green color for the cover, and this beautiful gold foiling for this fern leaf. And this is what I've been using as my creative insert. Inside, by the way, this uses Tomoe River paper, so I absolutely love Tomoe River paper, and the beautiful kind of slightly smaller grid size is actually kind of perfect for what I typically like my grids to be. And these inserts are just so beautifully made and so elegantly crafted, so I've just been a really big fan of the Serica Studio inserts here. I have a number of other ones as well. So in here, what I've been doing is kind of jotting down different creative ideas I have for different projects that I'd love to sort of follow up on, as well as starting some of my drawing once again. So I'll just show a little bit of it, I suppose. There's not a whole lot here just yet, but it's given me a much needed space to jot down my creative ideas and do a little bit of the drawing for some projects I'm thinking about. This is actually a drawing that I'm doing of a 17th century emblem, sort of an engraving, and I just really loved some of these. This happens to be here. The image is, if you can see, it's like a little snail crossing a narrow bridge, and perched just so on its shell is this heart with wings. And so this is really the image that inspired me to eventually kind of get and use this beautiful snail charm here. Which is really quite dainty and lovely, and it's just a little reminder for myself. And so that's kind of you can see, yeah, so I'm just some drawings I'm continuing to do kind of based on these engravings. And I've actually just been using the Traveler's Company brass fountain pen for these. I'm using an MD ink cartridge in it, and it seems, at least the one I have, that the ink isn't very wet, but because of that, it's allowed me to just use very fine lines, which I've been enjoying. So I feel like I've been kind of leaning into that for just this kind of very meticulous type of drawing that I'm trying out here. And so on and so forth. You can see this is the one that I was kind of working on more recently. I had started it out before, but it'd been a few months, and so I've come back to add some more details to it. So this has been just such a lovely, lovely part of my life, and I'm so happy to have this and to dedicate a space really to this kind of creative work. And at the very back here, I do have this wonderful Love and Trip folder that came out with this year's release as well, and I love this folder so much, and I love the illustration on it, and it's housing some important documents. So some perhaps medical appointment related documents that I don't want to forget and I might need to bring with me to other appointments as well. So I'm housing all of this all together in here in this wonderful traveler's notebook package, if you will. And because I've incorporated a wallet insert and, you know, an insert to keep some documents that I might need when I'm out and about, this is what I'll also be using as my everyday carry in the month of July as well. So I'm loving this idea of trying to kind of experiment with a one book July that is also an everyday carry, and I have absolutely been loving this. If you are interested in doing a one book July or have already, you know, started trying something out, I would be so curious and I would love to hear what you're using. I do think that people can get really creative with it. I think in 2023, when I had first tried one book July for myself, I used an A6 Hobonichi and combined that with a field notes, for example, for extra kind of journaling and notes. And I think there's something fun, at least for me. I like to see if I might try a different kind of system for every time that I try out one book July, just because it is kind of an opportunity for me to try something new, I guess, and see if that helps to clarify aspects of my planning system that are really working for me or perhaps haven't been working, and, you know, how I might address some of those things. I hope this wasn't, you know, terribly long. I just wanted to kind of start out with a shorter video for now, but I'm hoping to share a little bit more about what my planning system has been this year with a kind of Techo Kaigi video eventually. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you again so much for your patience for those of you who have been here for a while, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.